Horror games are terrifying, and as a game dev, this inspired me. In some past videos of mine, I have 5 hours to make a game where every hour I get a new theme that I have to add into the game, but this time, it's all while making a horror game. Generate a game jam theme. I'm not going to give it anything else, I'm just going to tell it to do that. And game jam theme, fractured realities. Now this depends on how you interpret the word fractured, because, well, this is an empty piece of paper, I don't know where I was going. Because a huge part of this challenge, and honestly any game jam, is how you interpret the theme. And after writing down some ideas onto a whiteboard, my main idea was to have the level change around you as you interact with certain objects. And the first thing I did was check to see if I actually made the interaction system work, and upon pressing E on this cube, it spawns a computer, because what else would the cube do? And with a little assistance, I figured the main points of horror I'm gonna go for are darkness, isolation, and unpredictability. Which is why most people consider my channel a horror experience now that I think about it. Well, is isolation really the right word when you aren't gonna be alone throughout most of this? The easiest one to make is darkness, as all you need it to be is, well, dark. But there's one little thing stopping that. And that is the sun. You take one step outside and you can feel its heat on your skin. Or so I heard. Haven't been outside in years. So after destroying the sun itself, my next goal was to make a simple flashlight, as you will be at least able to somewhat see while playing the game. This can be easily done by making a spotlight and attaching it to the player's head, so whenever the player looks around, the light follows and lights up the area that they are currently looking at. Now, it's probably no surprise that I have no artistic skill. Like, take one look at my past games and that fact is clear beyond a shadow of doubt. But there's one secret way to get better at art and models in your own games. And it's called plagiarism. Okay, well, it's technically not plagiarism as you're not claiming it as your own, so... I found a grass texture online and slapped it onto the ground, as the thing I've noticed with games is that if you have a completely flat-looking material on a plane, it's hard to tell how fast you are moving and get a sense of scale in the area. But if you have an actual material, it is so much easier. But considering that I'm gonna probably make everything else in the game myself, this does feel somewhat out of place. Like, I showed the finished game to a good friend of mine, and this is pretty much how it went. Yeah, that's a very cool game. Oh, thanks. And I really like that grass texture that you made. Thanks. Now, the most important part of any horror game is the monster itself. Now, I obviously cannot do any 3D modeling myself, but hey, it's worth a shot. So we're gonna have to somehow design a monster. Now, what's a good color for the body to be? This looks like Elmo. I'm not like... There we go. He just looks like a meatball with eyes. Okay, I don't know if this looks scary or not, but he exists. I will give him that. Okay, that is kind of ominous in the dark. Honestly, it looks more goofy than scary, but that's fine, because like, and you can even tell that like this is basic Blender stuff. Okay, that is a lot more ominous, until you actually walk up to him and see what he looks like. Honestly, I like it. It could definitely be much, much better, but he's in the game now, and that's perfect timing because the first hour is now up. Alrighty, it is time to generate the second theme, so generate another game jam theme. So here we go, for hour 2 we get Echoes of Time. What is that supposed to mean? That's a great question. I think the obvious choice here is to add some form of a time limit to the game. This will create a further sense of urgency for the player and will just make things a lot more scary. And I had an idea for making the monster, who I apparently called Jor. My idea was to have Jor be in the sky and slowly get closer to you as time goes on. Kinda like how the moon from Zelda Majora's Mask works, but my main focus was to actually make the timer work and have some way of displaying it. The game is going to take place in the small area, which will be possible due to the first theme changing up the level, so a big clock would be a cool way of showing the time. So I'm doing a few things here with the numbers. You pretty much make the time left into a percent and then you multiply it by 360, which gives you the angle that it should be at. Okay, here we go. It is now working, and if we look at the numbers on the side, it seems to correspond correctly. We now have some base gameplay systems into the game, but I think we should add a bit more before working on the actual gameplay, so let's just leave that for later. I first added some ambient noise in the level and a sound from the clock when the time is almost out to give the player a warning. Let's see. Shattered dimensions. What? Like, honestly, I don't know what it's wanting me to, do here, because it's, it's the same thing, pretty much. So, and my interpretation of this is that I will count it as the same theme as the inverse is also true. If I get a theme that goes against another one, then that is allowed in the challenge as is part of the challenge, but another thing is that if we get two themes that are similar, then it should be fine. At least that's what I think personally. Well, as the saying goes, when life gives you a similar game jam theme, go and make nightmares real. I wanted to finally make Jor move around and chase the player during the game, which is pretty easy to do using Unity's nav mesh system where I just give him a target to move towards and tell him what to avoid. Along with this, I made it so I can tell him to stop moving, which is something I will be using very soon. It is so nice and peaceful out here. And then there's this guy. But yeah, he now follows you, which I'm only going to make him start following at a certain point in the game. He's not as ominous as I was expecting, even though he is quite terrifying still. Just that, I don't know. So you can kind of go over here and just be like, oh no, he's chasing me. You just see him approach from the dark, and then you do some jumps. And then you miss the jump and he eats you. But as you keen viewers may have noticed, nothing happens when Jor collides with the player, because there's the player, then there's Jor, and then no explosion happens, so it is time to make a jump scare. Okay, here we go. 360. And the ghost is just still in the middle of the screen. Although that was kind of lacking, but I have an idea. What we want to do is go. I am currently dying right now. This is not okay. Hello, Facecam. First time ever. Not really, but... well... generate another game jam theme, and theme number 4 is technological turmoil. My first idea was to make the flashlight go out, as it's one of the only things of technology that we have. Well, aside from the street lights, but it would essentially have the same effect. Now, here's where a little thing called lore comes in. I'm just kidding, I'm not making lore for this game. Well, we are gonna need a little bit for this to work. So the idea is that Jor is a machine, and because of that, water will stun him, so then I added some water balloons into the game that you can drop down, and then he gets stunned. I made some particles to appear while Jor is stunned and made him stop moving, and you cannot kill the player while stunned. But for some odd reason, it just wouldn't work at times. As he just walks into the water balloon and then nothing happens, because why not, I guess. But do you want to know what was causing that? The tiny little thing on the end of the balloon that was just kind of there as it's its own collider. So he would run into that and for some reason that just broke everything. That tiny little thing caused so much of a problem that... So things seem to be going well, right? Well, I kind of forgot about a little part of the game. We now have some base gameplay systems into the game, but I think we should add a bit more before working on the actual gameplay, so let's just leave that for later. So funny story, by the way. It could be worse. At least I have an hour to make the entirety of the gameplay, add new stuff in the theme, make the game playable, and some fourth thing I don't know yet. The last theme, and that is going to be Lost in the Labyrinth. Actually, I think this can work well. I quickly downloaded Pro Builder to allow myself to easily make more of a level, and I wanted to make a maze that you have to navigate through to reach the end before Jorah reaches you. I just took a bird's eye view of the area and just started making random walls, hoping it turns into something decent, which that did actually work out. Well, I guess at least we could say that it was amazing. I added a fence-looking thing to block off the player from entering the maze early, as he will have to complete other things in the main area of the game first. I also added some water balloons scattered around the maze to help you survive, just in case if you get cornered. And to make matters worse, Jorah's movement stopped working for some reason. Around this time, I had 30 minutes left, so I added some objects around the main area that are only active after you interact with other objects, which allows our first and third theme to be used. But I don't want to spoil what you have to do, so then that gives you the chance to actually play the game yourself if you want. And then at the worst possible moment, disaster struck. I'm just joking, everything was perfectly fine after this. And with only a few minutes to spare, I made a main menu and a windscreen for when you reach the end. And just like that, the game was done. But this time, I let myself polish up a few parts of it after the challenge was done, as, well, it is in a playable state. It wouldn't be that easy to understand in the current context of the game, so I didn't add anything major after this, but I just wanted to make it a bit of a better experience to play. And if you do want to play the game for whatever reason, it is down in the description, which I can actually say that now that I have face cam. And if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I know that everyone says it, but it really does mean a lot. And I mean, if you like the video, you may like seeing more. I don't know, that's typically how things work sometimes. But yeah, after this, I don't think I ever want to see Jorah ever again.